Good evening, Uganda, and welcome to this special edition of On the Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara. Now, an image went viral on the internet, purportedly showing Dr. Kizza Besigye swearing in. And after some weeks, Dr. Besigye was arrested and thrown in Luzira maximum security prison for over 60 days. After that, Dr. Besigye was granted bail by a High Court judge. Upon his release, he says he will start from where he stopped his defiance campaign. Dr. Besigye is my guest tonight on the spot. Dr. Besigye, it's good to have you and to see you back. I don't know whether I should congratulate you for having returned, but it is a struggle. So part one, you're back in your house, and that's what you are fighting for, to have your freedom. But when you were in Luzira in 2005, and now you're back in Luzira in 2016, the walls of Luzira and the inside, what has changed?
Well, actually, quite a bit. I think there is a slight improvement in terms of the prison condition, the welfare of prisoners. Prisoners get actually 3 meals. They have more water now. Unfortunately, when I was about to leave, water had started becoming a problem. But when I got there, there was water all the time. So prisoners could take shower, could have, clean toilets and things like that, which was a problem during the earlier time. The health of prisoners has also improved. They have, I think, slightly more better health care. Medicines are there. And so the prisoners are generally better off than when I was there. Part of the improvement, I must give credit to the International Red Cross, which has been, I think, a great partner of the prison service in terms of improving those amenities, the toilets, the water, their input has been certainly quite visible.
Now, you came back, but still trumpeting defiance. That was the message you said. You're going to start from where you stopped. And people looking at you and watching TV or listening to radio are like, Dr. Besigye, for how long will this going to take?
Well, first of all, Patrick, please understand that this is not a Besigye project. This is not a Besigye affair. This is not a Besigye defiance. We have a situation in our country where citizens are not owners of their land, of their country. In fact, it's even a misnomer to call you a citizen. The right term is that you are really a subject. And as long as that persists, where you have no rights, what took me to the bush in the first place was that realization that I am in a country where I enjoy no rights, where I can be picked, tortured, and even killed, and nothing happens. You've seen, since I came out, those horrible pictures of people who are supposed to be our servants, people we pay, people we buy clothes for.
The police, and the military.
Yes. People who are supposed to be our servants, truncheoning, getting truncheons and getting sticks and getting wires and...
The walloping and the clobbering of Ugandans on the streets of Kampala whenever they try to come up or even wave to you.
Yes.
How long will that go? Can the people
You see,
of Uganda
you see, that spells out what kind of country we have. These are not citizens, because citizens can never be treated like that. These are, so we have some person with all authority. Mr. Museveni is sovereign. The people of Uganda are not sovereign. Mr. Museveni is sovereign. What he decides is law. The institutions serve him.
This morning, Dr. Besigye, I met a young man who says he's your supporter. And when I told him I was going to see you, he said, look, I still support him, but the sticks are killing us. Amigo,
Yes, yes.
it's killing us.
Yes,
so your people feel frustrated
so
because
please,
they're being beaten every day.
understand that nobody is being beaten because of me. Because if the people of Uganda were not frustrated, and if they did not think that what we are doing is in line with what can free them, they would never come around me. So there is a struggle, there is an intense struggle in Uganda, which is not a Besigye struggle. If today I announce that I have now joined Mr. Museveni, I have seen the light, Museveni is a wonderful leader, I have joined him, and he makes me a minister like or whatever, the goodies he gives. Nobody will want to look at me. For sure. They will even stone me on the street. So what you see is a struggle of the people of Uganda, not my struggle. I am only now simply serving as a rallying point. And I've said that struggle for liberation, where people regain their authority over their land, where leaders become servants, is the struggle we are engaged in. I have been telling people that our struggle is not just about changing government. No. We must change the country. We must change the country where we have different dynamics, where we have the people with the power are citizens.
Now, Dr. Besigye, courts of law validated the president's election the other day. You have state organs, all of them behind him. He has all the levers of power, in fact, including the leader of opposition. There's a government.
Yes, it's all fake. Because this is what I'm exactly saying. Of course, you can have a government once you have guns and once you can terrorize everybody, you can establish yourself into an authority, which is what has happened. That is not a government of the people. He has a government of his guns. He has a government, he can terrorize everybody and say, I'm here, if you talk, I kill you. That's a government of guns. It's not a government of the people. And that's why people have been saying, we have our own president. You can be your president, we have our own president. These are matters which are now before court. Of course, the question, even of law, is a matter that we will, I hope, at some point, have an engagement on. Because what happened, you see, in this last election was an outright coup. And that is a matter they will not have, they want to run away from it. Because you cannot incarcerate your opponent with your guns and say you want to move out. And then you say, I have now been cleared by courts. Cleared from who? Who cleared Mr. Museveni from me in the last election? They cleared him from candidate Amama Mbabazi. They did not clear him from me. And I have my stake. The people of Uganda who supported me have their stake. And they are still strong in saying, Mr. Museveni, we didn't vote for you. And this is but as I have said now, I don't know where to talk from and where to reach because some of these matters are sub judice now. But I have absolutely no doubt that Mr. Museveni is not the choice of the people of Uganda. He can use his guns and, run around and beat up people. It won't make him a people's president.
But was it, well, I know the issue of sub judice notwithstanding, an image of you purportedly swearing in as president. So as we sit now, in your belief, in your conviction, you're president?
You see, what makes one a president is not swearing in. Absolutely not. Swearing in is simply symbolic. It's like when you go to church and get bread for communion. We all want to go and...
the body of Christ.
Yes, and get the body of Christ and take wine. But that is not what makes you a believer in Christ. It's not what makes you a person who has been blessed by God. No. You are already a believer. This is a symbol. So what makes one a president is not swearing in. Not at all. It is the people of Uganda.
When you were in jail in Luzira, some members of the opposition reached out to President Museveni. In fact, they met him at State House in Entebbe, and I'm told you are categorical. You did not want to associate with that kind of move, and one would ask why.
The what?
Members of opposition went to meet President Museveni, pursuing the dialogue of sorts.
No, those who are pursuing dialogue, I have absolutely no problem with them. The only element I had an issue with was discussing my freedom with Mr. Museveni. Because Mr. Museveni has no power, should have no power over my freedom. If I have a case, it is Uganda versus Besigye. The prosecutor is the public prosecutor, who is an independent office, independent of any person or authority, supposed to be anyway. So, Mr. Museveni should have no power at all to say, don't try that one or try this one. No. Once you are accused, you've committed an offense against the people of Uganda, then the people of Uganda must prosecute you through the public prosecutor. Now, where the president has power is once you are convicted and sentenced, he has power in terms of affecting your sentence. On the recommendation of the Committee for the prerogative of mercy, there is a body which recommends if you are given a death sentence, there are conditions that they consider are important, that sentence is reduced or forgiven or whatever. It's the committee that can recommend to the president. It is not even the president who should initiate and say, I'm forgiving that one. No. So, but because Mr. Museveni sees himself now as the Almighty, everything, all power in the country is under him. Parliament goes to State House and legislates from there. He is instructing courts. He is interfering in DPP, adjudicating land. You don't take this land. Or deals, everybody who wants to do business, you see them in the State House, the letters from Mr. President, I'll give that one to this one. All things which, when we were actually fighting in the previous wars, the very things we were castigating are all now what is in the State House. So, unfortunately, some Ugandans now want to perpetuate that. To go and say, now forgive Besigye. Forgive me what? I don't live by permission of anybody.
Now,
absolutely not.
So the area of dialogue, aren't you interested in taking that path of dialogue? Because at least we've seen members of DP and UPC seem to be thinking that dialogue
No,
at
you
the
see,
end of the day
you
can
see,
help.
again, I really don't know whether, I have not interacted with any, even of our colleagues in FDC, I have not had the chance to interact with them as to what has been going on in the last 2 months, far less from the other political parties. I have seen that some members of DP are now in government. Well, one member at least of DP is a government minister and still a member of DP. I have seen UPC in government. I don't know how they are balancing being both in opposition and in government, or whether they are in government. I don't know. I even don't know in parliament where they are sitting, whether they are still sitting in opposition or sitting on the government side. I don't know many of these things. But regarding dialogue, in 2011, there was, after every election, there is always some talk about dialogue. Even after 2006, there was talk of dialogue. In fact, after 2006, again, Mr. Museveni he invited and met leaders of the opposition. I did not go. And some people criticized me, why haven't you gone? The others have gone. There was Sevana Kizza then, there was Miria Obote leading UPC, there were some other party leaders who went, and they had a meeting. The reason I didn't go, even at that time, when I received a letter from the PPS inviting us to meet the president after the election, I wrote back and said, can I know what this meeting is about? What is the subject of the meeting? And if we are to discuss the politics of this country, are we allowed to bring in our own topics for discussion? What will be the outcome of that discussion? How is it supposed to be managed? Is it just some kind of a brainstorming session? What type of meeting is this? And I got a very crisp response saying, you have been invited by the president to come on that time at the venue indicated and for the purpose indicated in the letter. So I said, well, you go ahead and have your meetings. I will not go into a meeting that I don't know the purpose of, the intention, the outcome, what outcomes are intended out of such a meeting. I'm not interested. The others went. They said, they were very, very colorful pictures on the newspapers and so on, sharing tea, and they said they had made some decisions. Those decisions never went anywhere because they didn't need me for those decisions to proceed. After 2011, the point I'm coming to, there was Justice Ogola who came and said, Mr. Museveni is interested now in dialogue with you people. And all the parties met at Protea Hotel, and we drafted how a dialogue can be constructed. What is needed to have a meaningful dialogue for the country. And especially, we highlighted 4 points. One, that if there is to be a meaningful dialogue, it cannot be a dialogue superintended over by one of us, yourself, Mr. Museveni. You are a leader of NRM, we are leading our parties. If we want a dialogue, let's have a moderator that we all have confidence in, so that we all sit around the table and are moderated. 2, let's have a clear agenda. 3, let's agree on who is on the table. 4, let's have some guarantors as to how to implement the outcomes of such a dialogue. Because we all know that there have been numerous agreements that have never been implemented. This is what has never been done. So any of those parties now to go and meet Mr. Museveni, I am not aware whether they were going now to talk about that or whether this is another kind of initiative that was being engaged in.
So now, what is your position? Because you have the leader of opposition in parliament, the Honorable Winnie Kizza, who is a strong member of FDC. She has put up her shadow cabinet. And in a way that is like the acceptance that we are officially in opposition and the NRM.
No, you see, Patrick, understand.
But that's the reality in parliament.
Yes, but understand my relationship with FDC. I am not in any leadership position in the party of FDC at the national level. I'm not a member of the National Executive. I'm not a member of the National Council. I'm not a member of the Working Committee. I am not. The only forum in which I'm a member of FDC is in my village in Rukunjiri.
So do you support of the appointment of the leader of opposition in parliament?
So the party is run, our party is run by the party organs, of which I'm not a member. And while I was in prison, I heard that those decisions were made. I did not have any input into them. Neither were the party organs under any kind of obligation to consider my views if they were different from theirs. But understand what the situation in parliament is. One, we have a presidential system in Uganda, not a parliamentary system. In a parliamentary system, for example, like we had here until NRM came, there were no direct elections of the president. Elections were only of members of parliament. Even when Museveni led the party of UPM into the election, he was a candidate only in his village, in Nyabushozi, where he was not elected. But he was a parliamentary candidate. So in the parliamentary system, you only elect members of parliament, and the party with the majority of members forms a government.
Yeah.
So in a parliamentary system, the opposition is necessarily the smaller,
minority government.
Yes. But in a presidential system, a president is elected directly.
Which is our case.
Which is our case. A president is elected directly and members of parliament can be elected also. So you can actually have a president who does not even have one member of parliament. That is technically possible.
So you're driving to your case.
No. It's possible. Under this, I want you to agree that it's possible.
Because you are not elected by members of parliament.
No.
You are elected by the people.
Yes, and you can even be a candidate without a party. So, Honorable Mama Mbabazi could have been elected president when he has no party, and therefore when he has no member of parliament. So in that case, who would form the opposition? Who would be government in parliament? There wouldn't be. So in a presidential system, parliament is differently constructed. In parliament, you talk about minority and majority, not government and opposition. Because you can have a government that has a minority in parliament, like we have today in the United States. President Obama is president, he has government, but he is a minority. His party is a minority in both Congress and in the Senate. So you cannot say that the Democratic members of parliament in the US are opposition. They are not, because they are in government. So what needs, the terminologies we have in our parliament are totally misplaced. We must have minority and majority, not opposition and government, because parliament is separate from government. And this is therefore what needs to be rectified. There must be a change in the law that provides for how parliament is constructed.
So in your view, there shouldn't be a leader of opposition?
Not at all. Not at all. You cannot have a leader of opposition in a presidential system.
So in your view, actually, you're opposed to your party organs, what they decided?
So if I had been part of the discussion, my view, no, understand me. I believe in our party. And therefore, I respect our party decisions. Those are the decisions they make. I respect them. I don't agree with them. If I had been consulted, my view, and again, as I have said, they needn't have taken my view, but my view would have been that we first correct, and we are there in parliament. We have members in parliament, so our members in parliament can move parliament to correct that situation. And before it's corrected, nothing was tying our ropes. There was nobody tying our necks that we must fit ourselves into what is there before the thing is rectified. But understand that this is not a major thing, as I have seen some people put it, you know, that party is divided, there is chaos in FDC because of people in parliament. No. Why? Because parliament is an institution of the dictator. All institutions service the dictator, not the people. This is the point I was making earlier. So parliament, however many people we have there, is not going to be the one to deliver the changes to transform the country. It won't.
Okay,
it's an institution of the dictator.
Hold on to your point, Dr. Besigye. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara. We have a special edition of this program coming to you from the home of Dr. Kizza Besigye. You wrote a letter while in prison in Luzira, and you felt that justice was not being, dispensed fairly. But now, with you are granted bail by the High Court judge. Do you feel there has been a restoration of confidence into the judicial system that we have?
No, you see, as I pointed out just a short while ago, in a dictatorship, all institutions are controlled by the dictator at the end of the day. At the beginning of the dictatorship, there is a struggle. Institutions trying to assert their independence, to follow the law, and so on, and gradually they are broken down. So there has been a struggle in the judiciary. And we have had, people really stand up and assert their will in the judiciary over time, made, historic judgments and declarations. Eventually it caused a head-on when the military attacked the courts. Not once, twice. Courts surrounded and crushed. So that struggle has been going on in the courts. And as a result of the attack, assault on the courts, as a result of the judicial officers who were assertive, who were already judicial officers when the dictatorship assumed power. Those judicial officers have since retired because of age. After 30 years, many of them are out of the judiciary, some are dead, some are retired. So the new crop of judicial officers, many of them are judicial officers who were selected because they are compliant, selected for their compliance with the dictatorship. And so there is an institutional problem. Happily, the law, as it is now, still protects judicial officers to a large measure, to allow those who are inherently able to stand on their feet to actually resist the dictatorship. Because the law is good, the law is not the problem. But it's just like Parliament.
Where's the compliance?
So I'm telling you that there is...
Because I'm saying this, you've been taken to prison more than 50 times in the last 5 years. But all those times you are able to stand your ground and defend yourself, or even no case is proven against you. Which means, again, that this judicial system has a spine.
Without doubt, I have told you that...
so you cannot say many of them are appointed because of their compliance.
No, that is, there is no doubt about that.
So when they are appointed, then they do otherwise against this, the appointing authority?
No, and you know, I wouldn't want to go into analyzing everything that has been happening in the judiciary. In fact, as you may have heard, I have lodged a formal complaint against His Lordship, Justice Kavuma, to the Judicial Service Commission for acts I believe are in violation of his oath. So there are problems. It's not that even within those problems, I have told you that the law establishing the judiciary and the judicial officers is good. And they are actually insulated. They are protected. Of course, if you are not compliant, you may not be promoted. And indeed, some excellent judicial officers have served and never got a promotion until their retirement. They remained high court judges until they were retired. When those who are clearly not deserving compared to others have excelled. And this happens even, in fact, the judicial service has been making recommendations that are never allowed to happen. And there was a war between the Judicial Commission and Mr. Museveni. So I've told you that there has been an ongoing struggle. Some people resisting, others being broken down, but
there was a point when Justice Sodoki was recommended to stay for another 2 years. There's a time when Ugandans and the Judicial Service Commission had proposed some names. In fact, Justice Katurebe now came because
but in fact, Justice Sodoki's case is a good point, a case in point, because he was not a recommendation of the Judicial Service Commission. And Mr. Museveni was seeking to keep him there because that's what he wanted.
But Judicial Service Commission carried the day after 2 years.
Yes, and they must be applauded. They stuck to their guns, and you know, of course, it went also to court, and the court ruled. Why court ruled the way it did is also a matter that can be discussed. But the point I'm making here is this, that under a dictatorship, all institutions, the attempt of the dictatorship at any rate is to control all institutions. And the judiciary has been a war ground, a battleground in the attempt to control it. I am inspired by what Justice Katurebe responded what he responded to my letter, saying no, under his watch, he will not let external influences affect how justice is run. I believe to only the extent that is possible. Of course, he was saying that you can appeal if you are not satisfied. He has no idea at all how long it takes for any appeal to be heard in this country. Even for the original case.
The Chief Justice has no idea.
Absolutely. If he just says that, if he thinks that's a remedy, because...
If the CJ doesn't know, who would know?
Well, so, anyhow.
So now, you actually describe this as a police state, as a country that has been hijacked by the regime. How do you plan to combat this police state and with the people and restore order?
Well, again, it's not my project. It must be a project of all Ugandans. My role is simply to do everything within my power to make as many Ugandans aware of the situation in which we are and of their responsibility to change it. It cannot be changed by myself. But while I breathe, I will do everything within my power to cause that awareness to go. That people, this is your country, it is your duty to rise up and reclaim it. Now, so one is awareness. Two is to help in organizing so that people can act together. Because people have invincible power, but it only happens when they are able to act together.
We have seen people being subdued by beatings,
yes,
been clobbered on the streets.
Yes.
How much are they going to endure?
You see, every struggle has pain, and Ugandans must be awake to that. I've told you that the Bush War, which we participated in, left behind more than 500,000 dead people. Instantly dead people, 500,000. So, is that better? No. That's why we have made, and even now, I'm inundated by messages, since I came out of prison, by messages of Ugandans saying, wake up, Besigye. Defiance will not work. Look for guns.
Ugandans are telling you to fight.
Absolutely, I can show you messages, inundated by messages who are saying, we are ready. Why do you allow us to be beaten like this? Give us guns and we defend ourselves. Hundreds and hundreds of messages. But it's my duty to inform them that yes, I have used guns myself before. And yes, guns work. We can get guns. Fortunately, in the current circumstances, even the greatest majority of those in the services, UPDF, police, the greatest majority also want change, as was indeed evidenced in the last election, where there were encampments of all these people. There was very convincing, vote against the government, against Mr. Museveni. So, if we wanted to take up guns and fight, I don't believe it would be a tough call. But understand our mission. Our mission is not just to change the government. If we got guns, we can change the government, but they won't change the country. Because it will be an exchange of, in fact, a change of guards, like Mr. Museveni said at Parliament. We will have new guns. The old guns will be maybe in the bush fighting again, or will be completely vanquished. We will have new guns, but we will not have power to the people.
So this
is why
you are incarcerated in Luzera. Your supporters are beaten on the streets. Your family is denied an opportunity to live with you. Ugandans are telling you, pick up the guns and go. Aren't you at one point being pushed to the limit to say, you know what, maybe the barrow and not the ballot?
No, because I am, first of all, I've used it before. If I had not gone to the bush and fought and won, I would maybe say it's possible. And I'm telling you, even now, if we wanted to get guns and fight and win, we could. But it won't change the country. It will change the government. For the country to be changed, and both are painful. This is what I want people to understand. Whether we use guns or don't use guns, both are painful. In fact, not using guns, using peaceful means is less painful. But when we talk about peaceful means, sometimes people think that we are talking about maybe just peace talks or what. No, it's a struggle. Peaceful means of struggle. Now, in that peaceful, non-violent struggle, we will be aggressed and we will suffer pain. We will go to jails. We will be killed, even in the non-violent struggle. But the effect of it is that all citizens, by the time they assume power, which they eventually do, no military, however strong, has ever won against a people who are determined, who are aware, and who are organized. None. So, but by the time they win, they will now have, for the first time in our country, subordinated guns. Guns will then become subordinate to the people of Uganda, because whoever orders them will know that if people want to change you, they can change you even with your guns. So guns will become subordinate, and they will become just a department of our government to defend us and to protect our property and so on. Now they are not. Now they are the ones who are in control of the country.
Now you have 30 years of President Museveni as a strong man. Like you said, most things are run by him, not the institutions. If the change happened and you happen to be the one or any other person, and yet the systems are not built, are we not likely to see a Libya, an Egypt of sorts, a Tunisia of sorts? Because there are no institutions, like you're saying. Do you want Uganda to descend
No, of course not. It cannot descend into that kind of thing. And that's the very essence of being deliberate. Because you see, in those situations, some of those situations you are talking about, you'll find there is, for example, foreign intervention and causing all kinds of, distortions in the situation. But, people can, Tunisia is doing much better. Here you see, once I've told you that a people would have to be organized anyway for them to overcome the organized militaries that we have. People must be organized. So even as we struggle, people will have leadership emerging. And a leadership is already emerging, a leadership of people who want to change the country. I'm now excited because I'm seeing people from the religious leaders who are coming up and saying, no, this is definitely wrong. Because remember, the struggle we are in now is non-partisan. Liberation is a non-partisan struggle. It's not an FDC struggle. And that's why it's indeed incumbent on all who aspire to freedom and therefore to peace, to justice and therefore to peace. Because you can never have peace without justice. Again, I've been hearing very confused noises of people saying we want peace. If you want peace, fight for justice. That is what gives you peace. It's like people who, if you are a believer in God, and they say, if you want to be saved, believe in Jesus. Because he is the one that takes you to to their father. So it's the same thing. You cannot, you know, if you want peace, what gives you peace?
You have to defy
You must,
the status quo.
yes, and have justice, because we have.
Even if that defiance is causing a lot of destruction in the city.
No, because the destruction will be caused by those who are against it. And that destruction, as I have said, will be there anyway. You cannot have an omelette without breaking eggs. Don't deceive
Collateral
yourself.
damage.
Yes,
But
yes.
some people will be hurt.
So yes, absolutely. If
Others could die.
if a child wants to learn how to walk, later on how to run, it will stand up and fall. And you know, it will go through pain. There is no, you can't avoid it. So people who are engaged in that talk are the apologists of the dictatorship, who are saying, you know, if you struggle for your rights, we shall harm you, and there will be, you know, chaos. So live in fear and become our slaves. That's what they are saying.
Now, Dr. Besigye, President Museveni has really emerged as a strong man in the region, and he has, you know, shown some kind, sort of gained some kind of legitimacy. And he has positioned himself in this region. You see in the Congo, in the Sudan, even the Western powers look at President Museveni when things go haywire like they are in South Sudan. Do you think that also causes a problem for the growth of democracy, because other people now look at him as the man who's in the region who can sort things?
Yeah, in a very limited way, because at the end of the day, it is us here to sort out the problems of Uganda. And make no mistake, I think the wider society, the international community is aware that we don't have democracy here, is aware that Mr. Museveni is illegitimate, because they were here. In fact, I am quite unhappy with the African Union. In all these wars that are happening in Africa are internal wars. It's not a country fighting another country. They are internal wars on which the whole world is spending huge amounts of money, troops, you know, to keep peace inside our countries. So there are problems of governance of our countries. That is where, if the African Union had any sense of wanting to stop this, they would focus on how our countries are managed. The the Constitutive Act of the African Union has actually done well. It has set standards of how countries should be governed, standards of human rights, standards of democracy, standards of whatever, corruption and so on. But see what happened in the last election here. The African Union had the smallest election observer team. It came on the eve of the election, and it left on the 19th. They were the first ones to move out. So, but we had the European Union had observers here. In fact, they have a permanent mission observing elections almost. Even 2 years before the election, they were already seeing and reporting on what is happening. They had a huge team to observe the direct polling process. They are still here, seeing what is happening after the election. These are Europeans. The Africans themselves, who are supposed to be the concerned party, they are not doing, and then they are lamenting, why is there war in Sudan? Why is there war in Burundi? Why is there war in Central Africa? Why is there? There are wars because we are not focusing on the right things. So Mr. Museveni is known. All those people who observe elections have written reports to show that he is not a president today because of the will of the people of Uganda. They know it. And therefore, when the Ugandans, who are the most affected in all this, by the corruption, by all these things, you know. Why are all these people, you think, bearing the kibokos and so on? People can hardly live in this country.
I'm talking about people, finding it very difficult. Everybody is feeling the pinch because the economy, the way how it is today, the shockwave, some of them are coming from out of Uganda. So what would you have as suggestions to stop this? Because we are not producing anything. The people are not skilled enough. You cannot compete on the global scale. You can only buy. We cannot balance our trade. So what would you suggest?
You know, Mr. Museveni is a very intriguing person because he has written about all this. What is the problem of Africa? What is the problem of Uganda? He has written about all this. If you go and read his things, you can't believe that he is the writer. This is a very intriguing. In fact, now, I hope after 30 years, people now know what they are dealing with. If you hear him say something, know that he's doing exactly the opposite of what he's saying. So the problem of Uganda is not primarily the economy. No, the problem of Uganda is not the security. The problem of Uganda is the politics. We must sort out. If we sort out the politics, all others become sorted out. And this is what we thought when we were coming from the bush, that we were going to sort out the politics. The politics, and this is what I wrote about in 1999, how we failed to sort out the political question. Because we were supposed to sort out the political question by doing two things. One, creating the awareness that I'm talking about within the people so that they are the guarantors of their own freedom. That was the first thing, which is why we had political schools. And the intention was not to indoctrinate people to support a dictator. No, the intention was to empower citizens with the knowledge that can make them be the guarantors of their freedom. The second thing was to remodel the legal and institutional framework, the laws, constitution and laws, and the institutions that come out of them. That is where we failed in 1993-94 in the Constituent Assembly, when Mr. Museveni decided to torpedo the constitution-making process, appointing the Kizza as vice president, who had been elected as CA delegates, others as prime minister, others as CA delegates. And telling everyone, now you are the next one to be appointed, but I want the movement system to be made the constitution so that political parties are thrown out and so on. And so entrenching, in fact, it was the biggest form of subversion. The constitution-making process was directly subverted right from its election. They said the elections will be on no-party basis. You only stand.
So is our constitution not a good document?
Of course it's not. And this is why we are still struggling for reforms. When we talk about reforms, there are some elements which are good. Some were good and have since been also amended. Some were bad. Right from the word go. And this was a catastrophic failure. Having spent more than 500,000 people to get to the table to remodel the country. So we will have to go back there, rebuild the constitutional legal framework.
Solve the politics.
Yes, rebuild the institutional framework, the institutions, to make the institutions of the people of Uganda, rather than being institutions of the dictator, so that we can have a police force, for example, where people run to the police, not run away from the police, so that we can have a judiciary where the least of our citizens can be confident to go and expect justice, quick justice, and so on and so forth. Parliament, where Parliament becomes a parliament of the people of Uganda, not being summoned to State House for every this and that, and changing this and changing that, and being given handouts and things like that. So we need to deal with the politics. Now, having dealt with the politics, the outcome of it, first of all, is that we are going to have vibrant competition. There would be vibrant competition. I was telling people yesterday, you know, in FDC, and the reason we are proud of FDC is that it's a torchbearer of democratic practice. I've been contesting with General Muntu very vigorously. We go around the country, we debate, we even introduced the televised debates in the country. You know, we went on TV and debated. Then we go to Nambole in the full glare of all your cameras. We cast votes. They are counted in openness, and whoever wins, wins, and whoever loses supports the winner.
But there is still talk of a Besigye Muntu, a Muntu FDC, and a Besigye FDC.
You see.
That is that.
You see.
Still, your members talk about that. That
yes.
you are divided.
No. First of all, the fact that we compete in itself means that we have different views on different things, or even different views on the same thing. Somebody says, Patrick is a very smart guy, you know, he's always in smart suits and so on. Another one says, no, you concentrate on Patrick's board.
It comes with age. Age comes with wisdom.
So in the parties,
Patrick is wise.
in the parties, there are two important things. Whatever differences we have, we put them on the table. They are transparent, they are open. We debate them vigorously. Whatever view emerges, we go with that. That is why our party remains strong and united.
But
so in the country,
you could be telling Uganda what you perceive to be right, but what is the reality in your party is that there is that line of division for those who think the brand of politics of Dr. Besigye is the kind of politics that will take us forward, as opposed to General Muntu.
Well, whether there are different brands of politics or whatever, what I'm saying is, if there is a discussion of brands, that discussion is on the table. It's not subterranean. We put it on the table, discuss it, argue about it, and take a vote on it. That is the whole idea of democracy. But because we are all united on the fundamentals that we want a new country, where we have citizens and servants, rather than masters and subjects. We want a new country. We are all united on that. You will not hear any difference within FDC on that. That we want to rebuild the constitutional legal framework. You will not hear a difference in that. That we want to banish corruption. Organized corruption, the organized crime in Uganda now. Because in Uganda it's not just corruption anymore. It is organized crime. It is mafia. There is an organized crime in the country. All of us are united that we must fight that organized crime. Banish it. So that there is decent governance in the country. So on the fundamentals, we are united.
You are united.
On how we achieve them, we argue. And that is perfectly healthy.
Okay. In the next 5 years, as we try to reach the conclusion of this, how will it pan out in your view? The next 5 years now, the president has already taken 6 months, I think, almost 6 months now, into his fifth or...
Well, of course, we have all taken 6 months so far.
2 of them in prison for you.
Mine in prison. No, you see, until that change happens, there cannot be any difference in terms of what Ugandans experience. There cannot be. Because look at the budget. You know, it doesn't matter what they go to parliament and apportion the different ministries. It's also an indicator how they apportion to the different ministries. But budget in this country is simply what Mr. Museveni says. He is the budget. And that's why State House, I don't know even why they bother to allocate it some resources. Because it's free will expenditure. If he says this, Patrick, take him 10 billion tomorrow.
Let him get an epiphany, by the way.
So we will have, I truly hope that after 30 years, nobody is confused that they are seriously studying I don't know, did I hear there are 20 points or something that he has given the cabinet that he's talking, because all of that is just, just nonsense. Okay. But really Ugandans should be more assertive in convicting Mr. Museveni. After 30 years, he wants to revive Uganda Airlines. After 30 years, he wants to revive cooperatives and cooperative bank and I don't know what. And after 30 years, surely, can you just destroy people's livelihood? And you do it casually, you say, now I'm considering doing this. You should be convicted of having destroyed our country in the first place.
This is an elected leader.
Well, elected
even though you are contested.
Yes, elected leaders are convicted, of course. Elected leaders are servants.
This is a man who you're opposed to politically.
Yes,
it's your wish that he should be the other side, but that's not the wish of most Ugandans.
Well, my duty is to express I told you that as long as I breathe, my first duty is to influence the will of Ugandans to become masters, not to serve me, to become masters, so that even if I was to have any leadership role, I am a servant.
Dr. Besigye, influencing the people of Uganda to sort of cause change that could help the country. In a way, I'm sure is taking a toll on you and your family. I just want to ask a personal question. Haven't you reached a time when members of your own family maybe could tell you, Dr. Besigye, Dad, please tone down, or this is not taking us anywhere?
Well, happily not.
They are radicals.
Because, first of all, I think they know where I come from, that even before I had my own family that I call my immediate family, I was in the struggle. I joined the struggle as a young man, and I have seen the sacrifices of hundreds of thousands of Ugandans, those who died. Many of them, don't forget, in the bush I was.
So your children are the children of the struggle?
Yes.
Your wife or your spouse is also married to the struggle?
Yes,
so this is part of it.
And I think they understand that if I give up, I will be betraying all these people who died, dying to see some change, including my relatives, as you say. My own brother is in his grave. Others have been, affected seriously in different ways. So if we give up, it means that they have died and suffered in vain. And that I have condemned my children to continue living as slaves in their country.
Dr. Besigye, when you came here, I was looking at your bookshelf, some kind of mini library of sorts, and I saw the book by T.D. Jakes, Lose That Man and Let Him Go. Are you going to lose that man of you of radical, let him go? Are you a very spiritual guy?
Oh, yes.
So
yes.
You read quite a lot of T.D. Jakes?
Yes. And
T.D. Jakes wouldn't be doing what a Besigye is doing.
No, he would. He would, because all about, you see, actually, we are required, those of us who are believers, we are required to ensure that we have justice. We serve a God of justice, we serve a God of justice. So if you are not promoting justice, if you are not working for justice, if you are not encouraging justice where we are all, I love you as I love myself, then I am really anti-Christ, I'm anti-God. And so what we are doing is perfectly, and by the way, including when you do it using violence. Don't forget that many of the things that you see in the Old Testament were solved by the sword. But in our case now, as I have told you, we are completely focused on non-violent means. So the people who cause violence in this country cannot be ourselves.
Okay, Dr. Besigye, your books are very interesting in your bookshelf here, because when I see a book like for David Plough, the advocacy to win, I'm like, maybe Dr. Besigye has not been a very good student of David Plough. The advocacy to win. But also you have read books like Francis Fukuyama.
Yeah.
When do you have time to read the books? And
unfortunately, not very much, because in my current engagement, I am on my feet and moving up and down and meeting lots and lots of people for most of our days. But whatever moment I'm able to capture, and especially if I am traveling, it's the best time for me to, be able to read. If I am on the plane, if I'm abroad, if I am in prison.
Were you able to read in prison?
Oh yes, and by the way, I think use the opportunity of this program to thank all those who came to visit me in prison, in Moroto and in Luzira. In Moroto, by the way, even before I settled down in my prison, there were hundreds of people outside who had come to see me.
But I thought Moroto is a stronghold.
Yeah, absolutely not, absolutely not. And that is how it remained. That's, I think, what forced them to bring me back in the first place. But many people, were able to come to Luzira. It's not easy to go to Luzira and see somebody in upper prison. You are checked about 5 times and dressed and so on. But people still came and gave me lots of Bibles. I think I came back with about 12 Bibles of different types and so on. So books, some people brought me books to read and so on, and you have ample time to do that when you are in that kind of situation.
You seem to have remained the same, and yet the walls of Luzira of a prison, I'm told, are supposed to change a man and sort of subdue him. How come you even emerged out stronger? If in today's language...
No, well, it's the mind.
Doctor, in today's language, the youth would ask you what you call out here.
Really, it's the mind. At the end of the day, we are controlled by the mind. In my case, I have prepared my mind. I'm emotionally prepared, I'm psychologically prepared, I'm spiritually prepared to face all these kinds of challenges. And so I don't become, anxious or stressed or what, because in fact, I was telling people who are coming to visit me that this is my second home. You are welcome to my second home, which it will remain as long as the country remains not free. And
your concluding remark tonight?
Well, simply to say that we are challenged as Ugandans, because we are the generation that hopefully will cause that permanent transition from a country of chaos, from a country where citizens have no rights, where a country where we are badly governed, to a country where we have control and where our leaders are our servants. Happily, I see that on the horizon. And we should therefore not weaken in our resolve. We should become stronger and go for it and make sure that there is change. My last word maybe will be to those who are in government, and especially our brothers and sisters who serve in the forces. And here I'm talking to the majority who are unhappy about what is going on. And I'm also in touch with many of them who are unhappy. I think that it's a time that we all do our duty to make sure that we get the country that we need. And I'm sure we are going to overcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Kizza Besigye. I've had him, and he was incarcerated for 60 days or more in Luzira. And he said they could have held his body, but he was living there with the freest mind, and he's come out even stronger. That's what he says. You've listened all his words. Besigye, I suppose, he does not hate the NRM, but he loves his country more. That's what I could summarize his words as. Good night, and God bless Uganda.